Sí, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes, profesora Nicole. Por favor, si podemos esperar un minuto más. Pero es en inglés, ¿verdad? Okay. Mrs. Nicole, hello, good afternoon. Please, can you wait for us just 1 minute? Two more minutes, please, and then we start. Thank you.
Sure.
Bueno, pues ahora sí, buenas tardes a todas y a todos. Y pues vamos a retomar con el segundo foro de salud global de la FESI Iztacala. Gracias a todas las personas que nos están acompañando, tanto en línea y de manera presencial, por estar acompañándonos, estar participando en este foro. Y pues ya comenzamos con el cierre de este foro. Y me voy a permitir presentar a nuestra siguiente ponente, es la profesora Nicole Joseph Shin. Nicole Joseph Shin es una innovadora social de Trinidad y Tobago y fundadora de Mrs. Braffit, reconocida por su labor pionera en la intersección entre la salud de las mujeres, la innovación social y el bienestar climático en el Caribe. Con más de 2 décadas de liderazgo regional, ha impulsado iniciativas centradas en las personas que vinculan la educación para el bienestar, la adaptación climática y la resiliencia comunitaria. Como CEO en residencia en la Escuela de Negocios Eberhard de la Universidad del Pacífico y facilitadora de innovación social en el Programa de Estudios en el Extranjero del Spelman College, Nicole aplica su experiencia en asesoría para fortalecer los diálogos globales sobre salud e innovación. Galardonada con el Vital Voices Global Leadership Award 2024, aporta una perspectiva caribeña distintiva a la conversación sobre cambio climático, equidad y la evolución de la arquitectura de la salud global. Y el día de hoy la vamos a escuchar con su ponencia Efectos del cambio climático en el bienestar de las poblaciones que habitan las islas del Caribe. La ponencia va a ser presentada en inglés, entonces, nada más para comentarle a la profesora Nicole. Mrs. Nicole, please, you will have 20 minutes for your oral presentation, and then we will have 10 minutes for questions and answers. So thank you very much. We feel very glad to have you here today. So we are, gracias.
Thank you very much. I'm going to present in English, and I appreciate that we are all together in this room. So The effect of climate change has been something that keeps plaguing the Caribbean region. And so we have to be very mindful of what it means for so many of us. And we have to also establish that in understanding what this means, it really brings about a new dimension of conversation. What I'm going to do now is continue with the presentation so that you can actually have more insight. So the Caribbean is made up of, well, first of all, it's 2.754 million kilometers, and that includes, you see the beautiful blue ocean, and then the land mass, which is actually the green in the middle. So we are surrounded totally by water, and we have approximately 44 million inhabitants. We speak at least 5 languages, official languages, in addition to native languages in the region, of 13 official countries and 2 official seasons. We have rainy season and we have the dry season. And then we also have to consider what is our diversity and that complexity of the number of cultures that we have, the number of various races and communities and origins that we established from way back in terms of before, well, indentureship, and then of course early populations and migration. And then within that diversity, we also have biodiversity, amazing greenery, amazing flora and fauna. We also have the ocean biodiversity in terms of what we have inside of the sea, the populations under the ocean. So when we look at our diversity and biodiversity, it's a critical dialogue that we need to have inside of the health dialogue, inside of the space of public health and the environment, and how everything is connected. So everything is so connected. And inside of those connections, we have threats to the environment. And those threats might actually be environmental. And some of those threats might also be human in nature, especially from the perspective of littering, pollution, and then it may be even in another layer of human threat, which might be things like overfishing. And in a new dimension of situations that we're also looking at would be the occupation of multiple forms of machinery and vessels in the water and in the ocean. So our climate, of course, would be considered the fauna, the flora, and then the entire overall environment. And then the people remain at the center. So you're going to see where that actual location, that pin, is actually going to be focusing on the people. And outside of the people is this beautiful blue ocean. How are we going to sustain and preserve and keep our beautiful oceans protected and safe? That is something that is responsibility of all of us. And what happens generally inside of the climate dialogue, particularly where we have the 2 seasons, the rainy season and the dry season, we have the dialogue and the issue around lives and livelihood. So picture this. We have the rainy season, which is usually from June to November. And within the rainy season, we also have the capacity and the risk of hurricanes. The hurricane season is also one of the highest risk times of the year inside of the Caribbean and the regions in terms of the Americas. And so when we look at that situation, we also have to imagine, and when we imagine it, we actually almost get afraid to think about it, how many times lives and livelihoods are affected each time this season comes around. So inside of the life and livelihood dialogue, there are many other layers that we have to unravel to speak about climate change and how it affects our health. First of all, it affects our physical health, it affects our environmental health, and it definitely impacts our mental health. And more specifically, it impacts so many other aspects of society, including productivity, which extends to livelihood, and which impacts on our lives. So, the dry season generally is from January to July, August. And with that comes beautiful time where we can go outside, experience the outdoors, but then we still have to protect that entire landscape that belongs into that category called the environment. So these are the lives and livelihood. The marine life is so beautiful. And what we have to do is care for it, take care of it, and reduce the ways that we actually can damage it, which includes pollution and overuse of the ocean for things that the ocean was not designed for. We can do recreation, we can swim, we can look at how we get our food supply. And then, of course, we can also look at how we do the most important, which is trade and travel. And traveling by the ocean means we can catch a cruise, we can go on a sailing yacht, we can also find our way with transportation from one island or location to the other, and particularly for doing business. This is how supply chains are managed. And inside of a supply chain, we have things like access to food, access to healthcare, and so many of the other layers. Again, everything we have to peel back, and we recognize how connected everything is. So instead of that trade and exploration and our lives and livelihood, we see how many things impact through the environment and how we treat it and how it actually then comes back, either to do us well or to do us harm. So let's talk about the impact now. And inside of that impact, we can talk about things like geopolitics. Geopolitics refers especially to what is happening in the world, where we might have situations where, while trade is happening, there might be other things like risks of embargoes or issues around removal of different opportunities, and then tariffs. And if we look at it inside of the global situation right now, we will see that there's also an escalation of challenges around geopolitics. And this in itself also contributes to an environmental experience, because of the fact that we have to now appreciate that the ocean's value is being now challenged by another layer of global issues, which is an impending war or any kind of tragic issue that again comes out of a new dimension of the use of the environment. So in terms of governments and governance, we also have to rely on leaders and particularly global organizations to do things like create laws, create various types of legislations that will help us to protect the ocean. Laws of pollution, laws around things like how much fishing countries can do. And in some particular situations, there is there's a rule and a regulation where you cannot fish or remove fish from the ocean of a particular size. And that's part of a governance dialogue, particularly where you look at protecting our marine life and protecting the environment, so that, again, our health, mental and physical, does not become a casualty of an environmental risk. And then we look at the socioeconomics. And inside of there, we look at things like, how do we manage the trade that is happening inside of the marine space? How are we dealing with folks who are particularly employed inside of the environment or environmental spaces, particularly, and I'm referencing the ocean a lot, but particularly where folks that may be employed to protect the environment, are they being allowed to do what they are required to do due to, again, regulatory or limitations with regard to resources? And what might those resources be? Not enough money, not enough staff, not enough people in that particular organization or department that is going to address what are some of the social issues that are part of the environmental challenges, and then how, again, we're going to blend it so that our well-being is at the core. And so healthcare then becomes a big dialogue. And why? Because our health is totally impacted by the environment. And particularly in the Caribbean, when we have to look at certain resources, particularly where there may be islands that have a little more access to particular types of medication or treatment. There might be people from some other islands that may have to go or travel again, either by sea or air, to some other island sometimes to access that care that they need. And how does the environment impact on access to transportation? And how does the transportation itself reduce the risk of access to care in a timely manner? For example, if we have to now get someone from one location to another, and there's any environmental challenge, and particularly what just happened in Jamaica in the last 2 months with the hurricane, you find that people were cut off from their local regions where they might have had all the care they needed, all the food they needed, all the access to medication and support systems, and even education and schools. And suddenly, this was actually truncated, cut off, and reduced because of the hurricane. And so, some of them, if they were in treatment or having care given, particularly for critical illnesses, or if they were having any kind of surgeries or anything that was supposed to happen, this now had to be cut short. If they were traveling abroad for treatment, this also had to be cut short because a climate situation happened, a climate crisis happened, and so they now had to actually look at a new way to address their healthcare, address their treatment, and address their recovery. And then there's nourishment, which is also a bigger part of the healthcare dialogue. And there we're looking at food security. Again, the climate situations that may happen or episodes, and specifically when hurricanes happen, sometimes the food supply and the crops are also devastated. And inside of there, you have reduced access to food, or to quality food, or to quantities of food that you're accustomed having. And when we have climate challenges that affect the environment and contribute to the issues of food security, you know that also has a socioeconomic impact because of the fact that food gets to be more expensive, and sometimes things that we like or that we enjoy or that we need become scarce. And so movement is also an issue. For example, right now in Jamaica, now you find that electricity has come back in some areas. You find that people are now able to maybe access a part of a road that was cut off in the last few weeks because of the hurricane and all the effects of the hurricane. Trees falling, flooding, and all of those other challenges. So you find that movement would have been a challenge in and of itself. And now people are only now being able, some people are only now getting back electricity. Some people are only now getting back access to internet and communication. Could you imagine what it means to be isolated from loved ones, from access to even basic information and communication because a climate disaster has happened? And inside of there, we also have to look on the bright side. So we look at the opportunities. And those opportunities are also vast. We have the opportunities of building community. We have the opportunities of reaching out in terms of building forces that will now begin supporting the social, the psychological, the emotional, the infrastructural, the physical aspects of what devastation has happened, and now begin to rebuild. And in rebuilding, sometimes you build better schools, you build better buildings, you build better hospitals, you build better resources that can now make sure that if we have another issue around a climate episode, our health is not going to be at risk, our mental well-being is not going to be that devastated or challenged, and we will be able to not recover immediately, but have a better chance at feeling less stress. And so what we have to do, particularly in the Caribbean, and particularly where environmental issues are happening at a more rapid rate than average, is look for self-sustaining models. And those self-sustaining models can be things like, again, how are shelters built? How is our food supply managed? How is agriculture and the whole discussion around agricultural development done? How is mental health addressed? How is healthcare in terms of critical illness or any kind of non-communicable disease managed inside of an environment where we have less resources, less access to water, no electricity, no running water, and the things that we need to manage healthcare in a way that it does not contribute to any decline in well-being and of course in the outcome and the healing of that person. So in building those self-sustaining models, what do we find? What do we use? How do we do it? We can rely a little bit on artificial intelligence. We can look at technology. We can look at things that the world has now in these modern times that will help us to go forward. Because as we now progress, we recognize that in addressing healthcare, we have so many ways of doing it. But why not incorporate some artificial intelligence? Why not use all the resources of universities like yourselves, organizations such as non-for-profit, not-for-profits, intellects and people who are capable of collaborating to design sturdier infrastructure so that at the end of the day and in advance of another episode, we have what it takes to really recover and reduce the risk. Now, you'll never know what the risk of a hurricane is going to be. It does not tell you overnight, it does not warn you, except to say what category it might be. And the categories range from 1 to 5. And inside of there, we still don't know how devastating a category 1 hurricane can be, because sometimes it really also depends on the environment we're in. So again, we can use research, artificial intelligence, collaborations inside of interdisciplinary communities to get to that core of how do we recover. And we have to reimagine agriculture. And how do we do that? We look at ways to farm so that there is less impact when food supply starts to be a risk or becomes at risk. So we look at things like building out advocacy, creating advocacy spaces, increasing literacy, and applying innovation. And again, this is always up to us. This is up to what we feel or how we feel about the environment and how we know that with it, health is going to be at the core, in the center, just like that marker inside of the Caribbean mass there. So we have to really use our disciplines, our varying capacities to strengthen what we do and how we do it. If Mexico has a model that has worked, there's no reason why we should go and try to start over. Maybe it's time to apply different knowledge levels and really escalate that dialogue around how do we collaborate so that we can strengthen advocacy, literacy, and innovation. And of course, this again, as I said, comes through collaboration and research, active research. And then, of course, we need to have representation. Who are the voices? Who are the people? Where are they from? Most times, it has to be the people who are most affected, the people who have really had the bad experiences. And so it's where we can establish things like a dialogue, even that says, okay, we have a regional sustainability agenda. And what that does is that helps us at various levels to say, okay, your expertise is this. Why don't you bring that to the table? Your expertise is that. Why don't you bring that to the table? And when we do that, we will truly be addressing climate change and the issues that we all have been really afraid to know is going to be on our doorstep because it's so very unpredictable. It affects our physical health, our environmental health, our mental health, and it should not be something that reduces development or progress in the world, and it should not stop our learning and it should not stop our access to well-being. I thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation, 20 minutes exactly, very precise. Thank you very much, really, 20 minutes. Okay, so now we are going to give a space for questions, comments about the presentation. ¿Tienen alguna pregunta o algún comentario sobre la presentación? Sí, sí.
Puede ser en español.
Y si se animan a hacer la pregunta o el comentario en inglés,
También.
adelante. ¿Ustedes estudian inglés, muchachos?
¿Van a preguntar en inglés o en español?
Ah,
En español o en inglés, como puedan.
sí,
Ok.
si necesitan apoyo, díganme y con gusto traduzco. Ajá.
Sí. Bueno,
Sí, aquí hay un comentario. Ah,
Gabriela de la Torre comenta, very interesting. We could do so much together. Thank you.
ok. Thank you. Gloria, ¿tú quieres iniciar el comentario que habías comentado? Después, si quieres, voy yo.
Ok. Dearest Nicole, finally you are here. I would like to comment about one of your ideas, your principal ideas from your presentation. That was everything is connected. I think in this idea perfectly is linked with our mission and our course, Global Health course. Specifically, when we work with the holistic approach, pardon. Yeah, in our course, the holistic approach is a fundamental idea for us because we are trying to incorporate in our program the model One Health that is important, in which is important to include the environment and the animal world. In your presentation, you has showed some effects from the hurricanes to another natural problems. And your presentation reveals the importance of the social sphere. For example, post-traumatic shock, and the importance of the social suffering, no? For example, when the people is isolated for the effects. And I think your presentation and the presentation from the other teachers in this course link many ideas from the different fields, multidisciplinary fields, and to help our holistic idea. This is the comment. Thank you very much.
Right.
muchas gracias. Y espero que hay oportunidad para colaborar
Yes.
más fuertemente porque la conexión es muy profundo.
Yes.
Okay, there is another question. Yes.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Arturo, and I'm a student from surgeon medicine, and I have a question. In your personal experience, what kind of laws can improve the environment in the Caribe?
Ok, a lo mejor sí puedes hablar un poquito más fuerte, por favor. Ajá. Un poquito más fuerte para que te escuchemos, ¿sí?
Well, in your personal experience, what kind of laws can improve the environment of Caribe? Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. So there are various laws that exist. So when we look at el ambiente, the environment, we look at many laws. We look at things like noise pollution, because nobody ever thinks of that as something that is a harmful thing to the environment. So there are laws around noise levels and noise pollution. There are laws around human waste pollution. Are they adhered to, and are people really taken to task for not adhering to them, to non-adherence? That's usually the challenge. Littering, there are fines for littering. In certain islands, it might be stricter than some. It might not exist in some, but the truth is there are many layers of legislation, and from island to island there would be regulations around pollution, waste disposal, management of personal waste. Of course, personal waste in many areas of the world will also have formal requirements. But things like littering, throwing your bags outside, plastic littering, plastic use is something that, of course, is still so prevalent, and styrofoam in some of the islands. And so it really starts from two perspectives. First of all, we have to be disciplined as individuals, and we have to be responsible. And then secondly, we have to adhere to whatever are those rules, regulations, and laws. So with regard to environmental laws, there are agencies as well responsible for those laws and responsible for enforcement. Is it enforced, and are people made to be accountable? Those are the important questions.
Ok, muchas gracias.
Thank you.
And I have another question, or this is my question. In your presentation, you were talking about artificial intelligence, and if I don't get wrong, I understood artificial intelligence as a way to revert or as a way to diminish the problematic of climate change. However, as we know, artificial intelligence is also a problem in the sense that in order to making work, it wastes, the consumption of water is huge. So, I mean, my question would be, in what ways can artificial intelligence can be used in a more, rational way? Because if we think about artificial intelligence as a kind of solution for many big problematics, but at the same time, artificial intelligence is a big problem for the environment, paradoxically. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I love your question because it is important, and I'm always ready. So that's the truth about artificial intelligence is, remember, there are so many facets to it, right? And yes, there is excessive use of resources, electricity, well, all the natural and power resources, access to water, access to electricity. And we know those two things are also scarce commodities in many parts of the world and in many communities, even around amongst us, right? However, when I refer to that particular feature, what I'm also looking at is like use in terms of really responsible technological interventions. So, for example, maybe it might be from a telecommunications perspective, and it may have not necessarily all of the features of delving into an AI user interface like like a ChatGPT or any of those, but maybe just the way it's designed or built for components to do things like innovate around activating a message, innovate around any kind of alarm system and things like that. So it's really the groundwork to create it, and not the physical and continuous use or abuse of artificial intelligence in the sense of the actual interfaces, but more in incorporating something that is going to make the responses for things like flooding, hurricanes, evacuations, a more specific thing, so that it's really cued into a need and an urgent situation, as opposed to overuse or abuse or even inappropriate and irresponsible utilization.
All right, thank you. Ok, otra pregunta. Creo que alguien había levantado la mano de acá de este lado. ¿No? ¿Seguros? Ok, pues creo que sería todo. Well, then vamos a darle un fuerte aplauso a la profesora Nicole. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
It
Mucho
was
gusto.
very interesting, and we hope that one day you can come with us and give us
I
a...
am looking forward. Thank you very much and all the best. Thank you so much.
All right. Goodbye. Thank you.
Chao, hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Gracias.
De nada.
Bueno. Ajá. Entonces, me llamó la atención cuando la profesora Nicole dijo que hay que utilizar la inteligencia artificial de manera responsable. Entonces pensé en un momento en el chat GPT. Me pasó la idea. Ok, bueno, pues entonces ya para terminar este evento, sí.
Sí.
Y ya, pues sí, para hacer la clausura, voy a pedirle por favor al doctor Adolfo René Méndez Cruz, jefe de la carrera de médico cirujano, que por favor pase y nos dé unas palabras para clausurar el evento. Muchas gracias, doctor Méndez.
Pues si quieres, ahorita que estamos aquí, clausuramos, pero decimos que...
Perfecto. Sí, sí. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Es un gusto ver a los alumnos tan entusiastas, a nuestros profesores de la carrera de médico cirujano y de otras carreras que estuvieron presentes en este foro tan importante, más de lo que muchos piensan. Cuando la doctora Gloria Araceli me hizo la propuesta hace algunos años de esta optativa de salud global, inmediatamente captamos la importancia de esta asignatura, como la denominamos, optativa, que va más allá de ser una optativa para un futuro, sino debe correr en forma transversal, no solamente en la carrera de médico cirujano, sino en todas las carreras de esta multidisciplinaria, porque tiene que ver con la salud. Y pensemos en la salud planetaria. Ahora que escuchaba las pláticas interesantísimas todas, hablando de seguridad, de soberanía alimentaria, que es algo, digamos, importantísimo para todos los países, escuchar todo lo de la salud vegetal, por esto de la fitopatología que habló la doctora Tocaya Jaramillo, interesantísimo todo, cómo todo está enfocado a una salud planetaria, y la salud planetaria involucra no nada más la salud del ser humano, sino la salud de las plantas, la salud de los animales, y esta interacción que nos hace estar en este planeta la estamos alterando. El uso excesivo de antibióticos, por ejemplo, en la agroindustria, nos trae consecuencias que todavía no las hemos visto, pero que en un futuro van a ser devastadoras, ¿no? ¿Por qué? Porque se está generando mucha resistencia antimicrobiana, y esto va a generar problemas porque la investigación de antimicrobianos no va a la par de la resistencia que se está generando a nivel mundial. En el mundo se calcula que se producen más o menos alrededor de 100 toneladas de antibióticos por año y de los cuales desgraciadamente el 70% o entre el 60 y el 70% se va a la agroindustria, no al uso de la medicina de los médicos. ¿Sí? Imagínense si todo esto se riega, porque muchos de los antibióticos no se procesan en los animales, sino se va directamente a las aguas, la resistencia que se puede generar en un futuro con los peces que en los que se utilizan mucho, por ejemplo en el salmón, ¿no? El cultivo de los salmones se utiliza mucho antibiótico y eso en un futuro nosotros lo vamos a comer, vamos a generar resistencias y vamos a tener casos devastadores, que este es un problema de salud mundial que lo ha contemplado la OMS, porque va a causar mucha mortalidad a nivel hospitalario, sobre todo en la gente que va a cirugía. Pero bueno, cosas de estas impresionantes que nos presentaron hacen ver que necesitamos tener el conocimiento de la salud global, incorporarlo a la salud planetaria, y eso es responsabilidad de todos nosotros, todas las carreras que se imparten en esta FESI Iztacala. Ustedes vieron la necesidad de tener biólogos acá, la necesidad de tener agrónomos con los que trabajemos en conjunto para lograr esto que pues es algo necesario en la formación de nuestros profesionales de la salud. Y FESI Iztacala me da muchísimo gusto que esté participando ya con esto que están haciendo ustedes en las escuelas, el enseñarle a los jovencitos que sé que están en una etapa temprana, pero ya en una etapa temprana que tienen ciertas conductas, como les dijo la maestra Altagracia, que son difíciles de modificar, a pesar de que son niños pequeñitos, pero yo creo que algo podemos hacer. Finalmente, recordar lo que Ortega y Gasset dijo desde hace mucho tiempo: yo soy yo y mi circunstancia, y si no la salvo a ella, no me salvo yo. Mi circunstancia es todo lo que está alrededor de nosotros, los animales, las plantas, todo. Si no salvamos eso, no estamos haciendo nada bueno en nuestro planeta. Entonces tenemos que trabajar fuertemente en la carrera de médico cirujano y en las demás carreras. Ya está la propuesta de la doctora Coro para que trabajemos con los biólogos, a ella le interesa mucho, nos habló de polinización y todo, porque tiene que ver con salud, ¿no? Si no salvamos a los colibríes, a las abejas, como ella lo mencionó, pues no tenemos frutos, ¿no? No hay polinización, y si no hay frutos, pues no tenemos prácticamente alimentación. Es impresionante lo que nos mencionó la doctora Jaramillo de la muerte de los irlandeses, ¿no? Ahí por los 40, por esta infestación de las patatas, de las papas, y no por un hongo como se pensaba, sino por un alga que parasita a las patatas, el alimento de los irlandeses, que llevó a la muerte de más de 1 millón de gentes y a la migración de muchos de ellos, y que pues ahora están colonizando, colonizaron más bien Estados Unidos, y de muchos de los colonizadores de Estados Unidos ahora quieren expulsar a todos los mexicanos y latinos de allá, ¿verdad? Pero bueno, esa es otra historia. Bueno, pues es un gusto que estemos trabajando y vamos a seguir trabajando en esto, porque los niños, ahora que hacían la propuesta de educar a los niños, también dije, bueno, ¿cuándo vamos a educar a los padres? ¿Cuándo vamos a educar a los profesores? Que ahí es donde debemos también intervenir en educación para la salud, porque los niños, pues sí, los impregnamos de estos conocimientos, son conscientes de ellos, pero los padres, pues con la misma conducta, ¿no? Alimentos, chatarra, refrescos y todo lo que en un momento dado sabemos que condicionan todas las enfermedades crónicas que son un azote en la salud mundial actualmente. Bueno, pues es un gusto, doctora Gloria, la felicito por el trabajo que está haciendo, es un trabajo que va a dejar muchos frutos en un futuro y esto debemos crecerlo. Salud global debe estar a lo largo de toda la carrera de médico cirujano y de las otras carreras. Doctora Jaramillo, también muchas felicidades por todo su trabajo y qué bueno que se interese por estos temas tan relevantes en la formación de nuestros estudiantes. Pues con este gusto vamos a declarar clausurado este evento, no sin antes mencionar que después de la clausura se van a revisar todavía 2 trabajos que quedaron pendientes. Yo no he comentado nada, pero escucho todo y veo todo, así es que eso es lo que le recordé a la doctora Gloria. Entonces, se ponen de pie, por favor. Y siendo las 2 de la tarde, declaramos clausurado este segundo foro de salud global y ya vendrán más en un futuro. Al final, pues les voy a pedir por favor que pues digamos el Goya clásico, tradicional, y adelante. 1, 2, 3. México, Pumas, Universidad. Goya, Goya, cachún, cachún, ra, ra, cachún, cachún, ra, ra. Goya, Universidad. Y felicidades.